Alright, so once you open up your servo trainer, you should probably see a bunch of cables laying in the bottom. That's because these boxes were recycled from some old servo trainers, and I didn't have the funds to buy a deeper box. I did the calculations on the panel layout and they would just fit, but not with the cables plugged in front. So we're going to have to plug in the cables. So let's start by doing that. Here we have our I/O connector. This is tied to PLC outputs that feed inputs to the servo, like registration, home, over travel switches. So make sure you're very careful because this is a very small connector with delicate pins. So we're just gently going to push this in here straight on and just kind of wiggle it down, and there it goes. And we don't have to screw it in, it's a pretty tight fit. Next we're going to hook up our communications port. Here we go with the communications port here. We're going to plug that Ethernet cable into the front. Your laptop will hook in probably here, or USB if we're having trouble. Next we're going to hook up the encoder feedback from the servo motor located here. Next we're going to install this cable. Now this is kind of stiff, so if it falls off you can go ahead and screw that on just a little bit. So we're going to put this in our connector. And so now this thing is hooked up. Let's have a brief overview of everything. First of all, this is not arc flash compliant, so within 4 feet of the open trainer with it powered on, you should be wearing your arc flash equipment. We're going to be doing everything virtually, so once you plug it up, unless there's an issue, you probably won't have to go inside the box. So you can see right now we don't have our servo wheel on. We're getting those printed, and so that'll be our indicator. So there'll be a wheel and a pointer located here. Next, let's go over the components. Of course, this is the servo. Here's our PLC controller that will issue CIP commands to the servo. Here's our 24-volt DC power supply. Here's our main power switch. Here's our fuse for the power supply of 24 volts DC. Back here is our PLC fuse. Here we have a fuse. This feeds the bus power, so it's a little bit larger. Here we have our output fusing, 1/2 amps. Right here are banana jacks for input connections. Here are our banana jacks for output connections. They are labeled with the PLC address. Right here it says 24 volt DC, so this bus, these set of terminals right here and these banana jacks are 24 volt positive, and then this is 0 volts here. The color code for this is dark blue is 24 volts DC, light blue is 0 volts DC. Everything else is high voltage. One of the things we need to check before we power on are these connectors right here for the servo power. Make sure they're firmly plugged in and they didn't come loose in shipping. I did this because we can pull that drive out and we can pop in a PowerFlex 525, and we can have an advanced drives class with the same equipment by just replacing the drive, so they kind of serve multi-purposes. So once you have all of this done, you are ready to power it up. One more thing, you should not have plugged this in before you hooked everything up. It should have been unplugged from the wall, so you don't have to. That's our only lockout, is control of the plug.